Hello, I'm Liha. So today I'm going to share with you a CSS tricks, which is how to create neon text using CSS. So the other day I read this article by Sylvia O'Dwyer on CSS tricks about how to create text, neon text using CSS. The link of the articles is in the description down below. If you're interested, go take a read of it. So I followed the instructions and I created this effect. I added my little twist into it, so whenever I click on the body, it will turn off the light, and I click, it will turn back on and have a slightly flicker effect. Although this overall effect does not look as realistic as the ones, not as astonishing as the one in the article itself, but given that this is my first try, I still feel that I'm amazed by myself that I even managed to end up doing this. So I'm going to share with you step by step what I've done as well as the learnings I've gained along the way. So let's take a look. So I started the whole thing with a empty div and a neon text with it, and I'm going to add a class to my neon text so that I can apply my CSS on the class. So I'm going to say this is a neon class. Okay, so let's start with some CSS. So first of all, I'm going to come over here and add the neon class as well as the body. So the body will be dark black color, so I'm going to background be black. And for neon text, I'm going to have a color to be white color text on the background. So let me set some font size. I'm going to call 20 pixels. And I see that a cursive font looks very nice in all these examples over here in the article. So I'm going to have cursive font. So I'm going to say font family to be cursive. And just to make sure our elements is right on the center, I'm going to apply some text align center. And I'm thinking of trying the one with the border. So I'm going to add some margin for my div as well as some padding in between. So I'm going to say padding 20 pixel, margin again 20 pixel. Looks nice. And I'm going to add a border, 1 pixel solid white. Okay, so it's nice to have some round borders around this. So I'm going to add maybe border radius of say 30 pixels. It's a big round radius. Okay, this is a bit too much. I'll change it to 15. Okay, looks nice. So now I'm going to add the neon glowing effect. So apparently when I read through this article, the glowing effect is achieved by adding shadows to the element. So be it text shadow or box shadow. So if you're applying to the text itself, then you're going to use a text shadow. Or if you're applying to the div element itself, then you apply it to the box shadow. Because if you say box shadow, let me just try to key in some value first. So when I say box shadow, then the whole block will be considered as one layer. So you don't see any shadow for your text. So to add shadow to the text, you have to add text shadow. So now you see there's some shadow on the text as well as the border. So let's just focus on the text itself first. There's a few values that you see over here. Let me zoom it in a bit. There's 3 values and 1 color, right? The color obviously is the color of your shadow. 3 values. So the first value, if you try to crank up the number, you'll realize that the shadow moves to the right. So the first value is the x-axis of the shadow. So x offset in exact, it's about the position of the text shadow relative on the x-axis. This will be on the y-axis. So if you're moving the shadow down. In our case, for neon text, we want our shadow to be centered in the center. So we just put 0, 0. And this value is the blur radius. So the bigger it is, say for example 15, you see that the shadow is spread out. And the more spread out it is, the lighter you see. Okay, so we definitely want it to be spread out spread quite out, right? This, you see the glow, the shade, there's a very strong glow, which means that there's a lot of shadow over here, but then you don't really see it nicely over here. So we're gonna overlay a few layers of shadow. For example, I add one shadow with a radius of 15, maybe another one with a radius of 4, and another one with a radius of 10. And do in mind that I can stack shadow like this, but most importantly is I need to comma separate shadow. So I can add 4 pixel shadow white, and then add another 10 pixel shadow white on top of it, and then add another 15 pixel white shadow on top of it, and there you go, you get this like very nice glow effect on your text. So of course we're going to apply this same thing over for our box shadow as well. So you will see that our box will have this kind of nice shadow as well. So white color, of course, is not a common color you usually see on the neon. So I'm going to copy this color, one of the color. I'm just going to copy this neon green color, which is apparently 0FA from here. I'm going to apply some, I'm going to apply it right to this, one of the shadow. So you doesn't have to apply to all of the shadow. I think mixture of white and green makes a nice match. But of course you can apply to all of them if you want to. So just add a few more layers, say 30. I find that the smaller shadow to be like your main color, and then the bigger shadow like maybe 80. I don't know, just randomly key in some numbers. The bigger shadow to be white creates pretty nice effect over here. Of course, there's this is something more on an artistic angle, so you have to play it out and find that white color, or how does it make you feel, and what is a nice mix and match that you prefer over here. So I'm gonna just copy this whole thing to the box shadow as well. So my box shadow now has, okay, this is apparently for box shadow it feels more uglier if I have like a shadow with a bigger number. So I'm gonna tone that down, maybe 3. Okay, sorry, I need a bigger number so that the color is less prominent. So I'm gonna maybe just remove 1, 10, maybe 20, maybe 40, maybe 80, I think. Right, so it's spread it out, but it's less intense. I think I can also tone this down. So I'm gonna add maybe, so this is RGB, so I'm gonna add maybe A to this. So it's FFFA. So it's less, maybe 9. So it's less strong. But also like this is, okay, the box shadow will apply on the outside of your box, right? It makes sense. But it does not really make sense for a neon light. So this is, you have to imagine this is the light tube. Light goes both way, outside and inside. So you want to add shadow inside as well. So that in that case you have to add another keyword called inset, and then maybe add some of this shadow in. So this is to apply shadow inwards. Right, so now you have some shadow inside and some shadow on the outside. Okay, so now we have this nice shadow. Now we are good. Of course, there's other things that you can learn from this article. For example, adding some flickering effects, which is I'm gonna add it right now. So here for flickering, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add my own twist to it. I'm gonna have a maybe events where I can click and then turn on a light with some flickering along the way, and then when I click on it again, it will flicker and turn off. Right, so to do that, firstly I wanna have a class. In this case, I'm gonna add this class directly to the body called dark. So So whenever the class dark is applied, will be in a dark mode where you see a neon light turns on, and if you click again on the body, you'll remove that dark class and you will turn the whole text back to just normal black text on a white background. So here I can add event listener on click, and when someone click anything on the body, what I'm going to do is, let's say document body.class list, and I'm going to toggle this dark class. Okay, so here in CSS we will have to differentiate when to apply the dark background and when not to. So in this case, for example, for the body background dark black, we're going to have only when there's a dark class, right? So if you click, it should turn back to white when we remove the dark class. For neon, I think some of the things like font size, family, text align, it's okay to be here, but things like color would be only when we turn on a light, turn off, adding the dark class, right? So neon, so we're gonna add dark and then neon. So this is like selecting the neon class within a dark class, which is on the body. So anything is within itself, right? So you can add maybe like color to white. Border, we can have 1 pixel solid, but here we're going to add a border color to be white. Box radius, copy that on top. Okay, so this is without the dark class, and when you turn it on, you see this is with the dark class, right? So you turn off the light, turn on the neon light. So now we remove all this, managed to create this thing. Now the next thing we're going to do is add the flickering effect. So for flickering, we can use keyframes for it, right? So we can have a keyframe that apply the glowing box shadow, or remove it, right? When you remove that, it's like the light is like flicker, it does not turn on. So to do the keyframe, we can use the add keyframes selector, and we're gonna name a name, so we're gonna call it flicker. And we need to decide when it's gonna flicker, when it's gonna turn off, right? So maybe you're gonna say at 3 points on time from throughout this whole animation gonna play out, right? So so usually keyframes you add percentage to determine when throughout the duration of animation, when what are the properties you want to change along the way, right? So here I'm gonna come up with maybe random 3 points of time, maybe like a closer to the beginning, so that it's a flick, 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 and then turn on, right? So we're gonna say maybe at the 18%, maybe 22%, and maybe 55%. Okay, so these are the places, point in time where we are going to turn off everything. So we're gonna say a box shadow to be none, and text shadow to be none. So now opposite of this will be the time where the lights are on. So I'm gonna copy all of this over here. Okay, but of course do it this way. Okay, now let's just first add this animation. So animation flicker, I'm gonna say 1.5 second. Yeah, that's good for me. So you see that there's like a glowing animation. That's because from 0% all the way to 18%, we are slowly changing the box shadow to from 0 to 18%, and then dying down, and then on the 55% you also see that no shadow slowly goes all the way to shadow and 100%. That's not really what we want. We want a flicker, right? We want a off and on immediately. So around this number, like maybe for 18%, we want timing at maybe 16% and 22% to be also turned on. So 0 to 16 are on, 16 to 18 is where it turns off, and then 18 to 22 is where it slowly turns back on. Anyway, so this should be 20. right? Slowly turn back on from 18 to 20, and then 20 to 22 we turn off, and maybe 22 to 24 we're going to turn back on again until say 53. So we're going to just give them maybe like a 2% of the whole duration to be off, right? 55, and then we reach 57%, we're going to turn on back, and we'll stay on all the way to 100. Right, so let's try this. You see that now it's actually flickering, right? Actually flicker. But then when the end of the animation, after 1.5 seconds, what you see is that it turns off entirely. Because this is just animation. You apply this animation, it plays throughout, and then because your neon class itself does not have text or box shadow itself, then you will not see it in the end. So there's this animation fill property where you can say that what to do with and the values after the animation, right? So for example, when you hit 100%, you are setting the box shadow and text shadow. But then what after that, after the animation ends? Do you keep this value or just reset back to normal, right? So this property called forward animation fill mode, which is where you can modify this, right? So I'm gonna say forwards, which means I'm gonna just play and then leave the value as it is, right? So now when you see, once you play this out, it will be applied. The box shadow and text shadow will remain staying here, so it will not be removed, right? So we turn off, turn on again. You see the flicker, and then it stays there, right? So this is how I created the CSS text neon text glow effect by reading through this. Right, so you see all these flickering effects, all these things I learned from here. So of course there are maybe things that I didn't cover, so you better go and read this article by Sylvia O'Dwyer. Right, so that's all in this video. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, and as always, subscribe to my channel so that you get notified when the next video is out. So see ya, bye bye.